Hi, Dr. Brian Kaufman, the Chief Medical Officer, Executive Vice President of the CLL Society here at ASH 2023.
Hi, I'm Meghan Thompson from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City.
Dr. Thompson, we found that blocking the BTK pathway, the BTK receptor, which is part of the B cell receptor pathway, the BTK kinase, has been incredibly helpful in controlling CLL. But the cancer has outsmarted that, and we found resistance. And you're working on different ways to block that B cell receptor and to work on the BTK. Can you explain some of that, some of these resistant mechanisms and some of this research that you're involved in?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, there's no question that BTK is really, really important for the survival of CLL cells. And treatments like ibrutinib, acalabrutinib, zanubrutinib, now pirtobrutinib, really are able to bind to this BTK protein and shut off its function. However, over time, in some patients, the CLL cells, as you mentioned, outsmart, and they basically make changes in the DNA at that protein so the drug can no longer bind effectively. And we're actually able to now test for in patients these resistance mutations that have been shown to actually, what we say, confer resistance or cause the drug to no longer work. So these discoveries have really highlighted, I think, while there's different mechanisms and nuances for different drugs, really highlighted that this BTK protein and the B cell receptor signaling is really essential for CLL cell survival, and we need new ways basically to target BTK. So this is where work in a new class of medications called BTK degraders comes in, and these degraders are in clinical trials. There's several of them out there, and basically the degraders, instead of turning off that signal with the drug binding and turning off the signal, actually destroy the BTK protein that is so essential for CLL cell survival.
So you're involved with one particular one that's, I know that there's one that's in development right now by Nurex, but you're involved with a different one, and can you tell us a little bit about that and the trial and where that's at?
Yeah. So our center has been fortunate to have many BTK degrader studies open, participating in the Nurex 2127 study. At this ASH, though, I'll highlight that we're also participating in this BGB-16673 BTK degrader study. This is another BTK degrader that basically, as I said, instead of binding the BTK protein and shutting off the signaling, actually its mechanism is to degrade or destroy the BTK protein. And so you'll see data at this ASH of the preliminary early results, and there's many CLL patients in that cohort, heavily pretreated patients. We are seeing clinical responses. Overall, the safety and tolerability is good, and so really excited about this drug in future development, and really is a novel way to overcome some of the resistance we're seeing in patients who've been treated already with drugs like ibrutinib and then go on to pirtobrutinib, and then this might be a future option. So early phase 1 clinical trial still, but some really promising clinical data.
So this trial, as I understand, is open to not just CLL, but related B-cell lymphomas. So there's some of the data. Can you share a little bit of those results in the CLL patients? I know with phase 1 it's hard because that's more about dose finding and safety. Have there been safety issues that have come up, and what about efficacy? I know that's really early. Yeah,
it's really early. There is some preliminary efficacy data. We are seeing overall responses, particularly in the CLL patients. The safety's been quite good. There are some common CLL-related toxicities that you'll see reported, infection being one of them, which I think remains a major unmet need for our CLL patients, how these therapies, affect the immune system, and then CLL patients are already predisposed, so it's always hard to tease out whether it's, the drug or the underlying CLL in these patients. And I do want to highlight that this study actually does include also transformed indolent lymphomas, and within that umbrella, Richter's transformation, which is a major unmet need. And, as you know, no FDA-approved therapy specifically for Richter's, and while there's promising therapies in clinical trials, we really need more options for these patients as responses haven't been durable. So we don't have a lot of data yet for that transformed cohort, but there have been Richter's patients enrolled, and really looking forward to kind of seeing the follow-up in the future.
So if patients want to find out more about this trial, it's, how do they do that?
Yeah, so it's open and enrolling. It's an international study. There's many sites in the United States, and so clinicaltrials.gov, it's BGB-16673, BTK Degrader study, and I think it's a great option for patients to look at, especially after they've had treatment with standard therapies.
Well, we'll make sure to put up a link to that on the website. Dr. Thompson, thanks so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.